You're unlikely to marry the first person you kiss. By the same token, you're unlikely to spend your career doing the first thing that you try. Okay? But what you do every time you date somebody is you find out more about what you do like about somebody or a relationship or what you're good at or what your strengths are, and you learn about that. And my view on that is, I happen to be in real estate. I love what I do because I get to talk to people and chat, and I get to go out and see buildings, and I love that side of it. I don't enjoy the technical side of it. I don't enjoy the finance side of it. I don't enjoy the detail side of it. And I said, my job is largely go and find the deals, keep people inside the elastic band to make sure the job's done. But other people do the detail and the financing because they're much better at it.
The Europreneur Podcast, another episode. My name is Neil Zaval. Welcome. Today I have a guest from London, my dear friend James Burchell, which I think 2 weeks ago we even had dinner here in Tel Aviv. And it's always a pleasure to have you. But today you and I are going to gossip a little bit. There's a lot of things we need to discuss within EO and outside of EO. Are you ready?
Of course.
So for those who don't know who you are, can you give us a short elevator pitch? Introduce yourself, please.
Sure. My name is James Burchell. I'm 55. I've been a member of EO for about 17 years. I have a commercial real estate investment and development business based in London, but we focus on offices and retail around London and the southeast. I've been in real estate for 30 years probably. I've been a principal for 20 years. I've been an entrepreneur all the way through. Familiar-wise, I am divorced but living with my partner. Between us, we have 5 kids ranging between the age of 20 to nearly 30, 4 boys and a girl who is the youngest. We have what we call a blended and extended family, and the kids probably get on even better than me and the other half do. And I am very blessed and very fortunate because I often describe myself as I have 2 families. I have my family, which is obviously very important to me, and I have my EO family, which I can only describe as is a family that you know wherever you are in the world is there for you.
Are you born and raised in London?
Born in England, born in London, just outside London. But I spent 5 years living in Holland as a kid. So I also, it gives me a little bit of an open mind in that respect, and not just because of the drugs that you can sort of eat or take, but I couldn't do as a kid, but I've learned over the years. But I'm not sure you should be saying things about that in terms of the cafes that, etc. in Amsterdam. I spent 5 years living in Holland, and then I used to go back for holidays while I was a teenager. I was at boarding school here in the UK. I used to go back for holidays, but probably since I've been probably about 1920, lived permanently here in the UK.
So then, what did you study? College, university?
I left school. I didn't go to university.
Oh,
I left school. I had some challenging times growing up. I didn't want to go to university. I didn't want to study. I wanted to go out to work. I left school and started working. And I actually did all my exams by correspondence. So I'm actually a qualified chartered surveyor, but I worked by day and studied by night. Got qualified that way. In fact, the company that I was working for during the recession in the early 90s went into receivership. And I always knew I was going to review my career when I got qualified. But I got qualified on the 1st of December. I got made redundant because the company I was working for got put into receivership on the 10th. We basically got let go on the 17th, and myself and 2 other guys set up our own commercial real estate investment brokerage agency on Christmas Eve. And then I flew off for 3 weeks to a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Australia. Came back with my own card table and chair to start work. And that's how we started. I started, I suppose, as a shareholder in a business.
What type of jobs did you hold while you were studying? Like weird stuff? Because I have a few.
No, I was always working in commercial real estate. I knew I wanted to go into real estate. I went to 2 seminars when I was in my sixth form at school. I wanted to do law. Loved to have gone to the bar, been a barrister. But I went to 2 seminars in my sixth form. One was on law, and the other was on quantity surveying, and that was outside and buildings. I can still to this day picture the video from that. And the one on law just looked like hard work. It just looked like bloody hard work, and it just wasn't for me. And the one on real estate looked interesting. It was outdoors. It was, it was involving people. My grandfather had always owned a bit of real estate, and I spoke to a few people, and they all said, go into commercial. If you go into commercial, you can always go into residential. If you go into residential, you'll never get into commercial. And the other thing people said is get yourself qualified. Doesn't matter how you do it. So I left school, and I worked for 2 or 3 firms. First job I ever had, I lasted about 3 months, crashed 2 cars, misfiled too many papers, spent too much time doing things that I probably shouldn't be doing, as you do when you're sort of a teenager. And they decided that although I had a lot of potential, and I'm still friendly with my first boss from those days, he still says, I'm the one that got away, but at the time I wasn't right to keep. And you learn. And so I had a couple of jobs until I got lucky. Or you make your luck in the right place at the right time. I had a friend. We were on a charity committee together. Her dad owned a commercial real estate agency. And we were big Arsenal fans. And she knew I wasn't happy where I was working-wise. And she said, why don't you come and have a chat with my dad? So he interviewed me one Sunday night in his kitchen and said, look, we like you. And why don't you come and meet one of my other partners? And see if you get on and see where we go from there. So I had a second interview, and the partner was responsible for the auction department at the time. And so I started working on the auction team. And I suppose if there's one thing that I'm sorry I've never had the opportunity to do was I never got onto the rostrum to actually be the auctioneer. Funnily enough, the auctioneer who was our auctioneer at the time, I'm still friendly with. I see him every now and again. In fact, we've just done a deal with him.
Auctioneer is the guy that actually runs the auction?
Runs the actual auction. I never had the chance to do that. It's one thing I'd love to have done. And in fact, we've just sold a building using the auctioneer who was our auctioneer when I first started working. And the guy, and he bought me, because we were very fair with him on something we did. And he actually bought me, he knew I'd always wanted to be an auctioneer, and he bought me a gavel, so the hammer, so that I could actually bang the table, which I'm very, very excited to have. So that's where I sort of started. And then after a year, I was doing that and also working with one of my colleagues on the commercial real estate investment team. And I was doing both. And at the end of the first year, I said to my boss, I said, I can't do both. I'm doing auctions and investment. I can't do both. And he said, what would you like to do? I said, investment. And he said, fine, from here on in you do investment, but when the auctions are, you help out on the auctions. And that's exactly what I did. And then I started working with one of the guys on the investment side. We worked together. We ended up working together for 15 years and in partnership together as well.
How important is it, in your opinion, especially in this type of, it's a very people-oriented industry. You need to trust people and stuff. Working with someone for 15 years is a long time. Do you need to have that ability to sniff out the problematic people? Do you need to have the ability to find the right people to work with?
It's really, really interesting. My philosophy is you never fall out with anyone. I try not to, okay? You never know, okay? I was only ever screwed by one client on a deal once, and it came back round to bite him within a year. Okay? I ended up making a profit when I had changed from being a broker to being a principal and a client. I ended up buying something off the guy who had screwed me, and the profit that I made on the deal that I bought from him matched the amount that he'd screwed me out of a fee when I was a broker. Right? So in that respect, you know, life is short. Things have a habit of coming round. Okay, and I see it time and time again. In fact, I had it today. Somebody that we didn't do a deal with 10 years ago. And we parted as friends and trying to do a deal because we couldn't make it work. Called me today and said, I can't believe I'm talking to you. It's been a number of years, but this has happened and I'm coming to talk to you. It was a very warm conversation because we go back, right? I think having an understanding of who people are, and I think the most important thing is understanding what people's drivers are and working out how to deal with them is really important. And I also believe that you are, judged is not the right word, but people do, okay? Who you mix with, who you spend time with, who you are associated with is a reflection on you. And you can decide who you want to spend time with, who you want to be with, who you want to mentor, who you want to be mentored by. And that is absolutely key, right? And I was brought up on the basis of you can sell what you like, when you like, and how you like. You can only ever sell your name once. And that's how I was brought up. And for me, I've always had a philosophy, money will come and money will go. There will always be people who have more than me. There will always be people who have less than me. As long as I can put my head on a pillow at night and I can sleep at night knowing that I'm a good person and the people I mix with are the right kind of people, then I can sleep at night. And that's most important. And I'm good to the people around me.
It's interesting that people tend to say it's the people you surround yourself with, but every now and again, do you remember that friend or that person that was really fun to hang out with, but you knew they were bad company? I miss them sometimes.
You know, it's really funny, isn't it? There are people. My ex-wife would say said people come into your life for a season, a reason, or for life, and that's a really, really good phrase. Okay? And it's really true. Okay.
I have a book.
And
I don't know if you know this. My second novel is called
no,
Meet You in Another Life. And the whole book is about being open-minded to the fact that some people will they come into your life and they'll come in for a moment, an evening, for life. Your spouse could be your friend. Someone said something that will resonate for the rest of your life. You
yeah,
know? And
yeah,
that was the point of the whole novel is, are you
yeah.
open-minded? Because you never know who these people might be for you.
And that's really important. That comes back to what I was saying. You were asking about people, and the world is still about people. It's still about relationships, and the real estate industry is all about relationships and trust. 100% about that. And trust is the really, really, really key element to this. Is you have to be able to trust the people that you're dealing with, trust the advisors that you choose to advise you, trust the people who you want to be in business with, the banks that you want to borrow from, the people that you want to deal with. And that is absolutely key. And your judgment on who you can trust is really important. And never scared to ask those people is who you can trust and can you trust them.
Bad advice you've ever gotten in the real estate industry that at the moment felt like they know what they're talking about, and then
Bad advice.
I can share with you that a friend of mine told me
Yes.
he's into crypto, and I called him and I said, I'm gonna jump in now. And he said, listen, it's my business. Trust me, don't do it now. And everything doubled within a month.
I can remember I had a boss, my second job, and I said to him after about a year, I really, about 18 months, I said, I really need to know where I'm going here. And he said, trust me. He said, trust me, we will look after you. And About 3 months later, the world imploded with them from a business point of view, and I got completely screwed. And so would never trust them again. And I think also, there's one where we bought a building up in just outside Manchester, and we got bad advice from the agents on a letting perspective, and that cost me a lot of money. And it's the one time I didn't take a second opinion. It's the only time I didn't take a second opinion from somebody. And from these things you learn, and that was a lesson that I learned about making sure that I took second opinion and valued opinions.
It's interesting. Doing real estate for so many years, then the deals are on a bigger scale, right? You're not doing a retainer of £100. You're doing big deals. Mm-hmm. The money's big. What's the next phase? So you buy a shop, you buy a building, you buy a whole block. When is it enough? Like, it seems so big.
I sort of look at it on a different kind of way, okay? I suppose in some ways it's portion sizes. When you're a kid, you have smaller portions, okay? Everybody has a certain appetite, okay, for what they're comfortable eating with, okay? There's no one shoe that fits all. Okay, and so, yes, the deal sizes may grow. When the deal size grows, the risk grows. The pressure grows. The rewards can be greater, but the risks are greater. It's all about appetite. It really is. It's really about, what's the appetite for risk? What's the appetite for size? What are our investors' appetite? What do we feel comfortable with? And it's a constant journey. It is a growth journey, unquestionably. The deals we do today are definitely bigger than the deals that we did when I started, because you do grow.
But are you worried when you now do? I don't know. It feels like it's the risk is not the casino, like you bet it all, because you diversify, I assume, and stuff like that. But is it, when you sign a deal today, is it like, we need this to work,
Every deal needs to work. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter whether I'm investing £1, £100, £1 million, £100 million. Every deal has to work on its own deal, okay? And it doesn't matter whether I'm doing a deal for £1 or £100 million. I have that fear. That fear never goes. The moment I sign the check, okay, or sign the contract, that fear never goes. And I never want to lose that fear, because that's when you fall. Am I doing the right thing? Is this the right thing? Is this the right deal? Whenever I sign a deal, I always ask my lawyers, is there any legal reason why I shouldn't sign this? Okay? It's a bit of, how some footballers have they tie their laces in a certain way, they come out a certain way. My superstition is, before I sign a deal, I ask the lawyers, is there any legal reason why I shouldn't sign the deal? And I always have that fear. And one of my mentors said to me, never lose that fear, because that's when you will fall. And I've been very lucky. I've never, touched wood, thank God, never been in distress from a banking perspective, finance perspective, real estate perspective. We've managed other people's distress during the GFC. I had a conversation today with one of the banks about exactly that. And part of that is that whatever the size of the deal, the key is, does it stack up on its own? And also the key is, what happens if it goes wrong? What's my downside? What's my risk? And I always look first off, if I've protected my downside, my upside will look after itself. What is my downside? What's my worst case scenario? What if this goes wrong? What will happen?
So I don't know if I still look at it like that, which I think is impressive, to look at all the deals the same way. I think maybe because I do different types of deals. It's very interesting. I always ask people like, what's the end goal? Like, you're gonna own London, like what do you define as a metric of success, or the other side, which would be your BHAG, your big hairy audacious goal, that's your 10 years.
So do you know what my biggest success has been in the last 10 years? Is that my kids are in a really great place. That they've all gone through, two are at university at the moment, but between all of us, the kids are all in a really great place, mentally, physically. Financially, they're all, on their paths, either at university or knowing what they want to achieve. I don't get a day that I don't get 1, 2, 3, or between me and Ali, all 4 or 5 of them in touch with us virtually every single day. That to me has been my biggest success. And if you ask me what would be my biggest legacy, that would be my biggest legacy. From a business point of view, what I think for me, it's not about the money that I make. It's my ability to inspire other people to want to go and leave, to be involved in real estate, and to leave a building in a better state than when they bought it.
It's interesting.
And it doesn't matter what the size is. That should be the ambition, is that they leave something in a better place than when they arrived.
I've met some of your kids and some of Ali's, and I think it's interesting. On a personal note, I still feel I'm lacking that legacy. Like, a lot of people would define what they do by their position or their company or their title. Some people will say proud father, proud mother, and stuff like that. I feel as if I'm doing a very interesting journey, but I'm lacking that part as I don't have any kids. And it feels like, hearing you talk about it, I can really, it resonates that there's a big aspect of life that I think people, on a personal level, I'm missing that. I have enough time, I have money to do it, and so on. And yeah, it feels interesting because then I spend most of my time doing things I like, working and stuff, and teaching people. And you know how many talks and workshops I give, and I teach a lot of people, but it still leaves a void, which is interesting hearing you.
I can understand that, and I feel for you in that. But I think what's really key is giving yourself the room to find the right person to put yourself in the right place, to find the right person to do that with.
Do you think that's a mindset? People have the right mindset to succeed in business. They'll put all their efforts, then focus, they niche down, they do all the things, but they don't do the same thing in relationships.
I think there's 2 things. I don't think people do the same about themselves, because I don't think unless you are in a place for you, you can give to somebody else. And I think that's really, really important.
I tend to agree. I think also, in terms of business, I think for me it became that when we put our someone else, right, someone else's benefit in terms of teaching or honing their craft, helping them learn the skills we have and stuff, that's where we have fun. But it also means that we need to be in a good place in terms of work to have the time to teach someone else. And I think it's about priorities. But when you were in your 30s, you worked a lot.
Yeah, it's really interesting. One of the things that I learned, if I go back, so probably in my early 40s, one of my mentors who taught me, you make the time for what's important for you. But one thing that I've learned is to try and work out what's important for you. And also, one of the big things I've learned is about understanding to do what's in your best interest, but sometimes what's in your best interest isn't always what you think is in your best interest. And that's where looking after yourself, I would say, is in your best interest. And,
Do you have an
we
example
go,
for what you
go
said? Do you have an example for what you just said on yourself, or something that I can?
on.
Because the only thing that pops to mind is when on the weekends they say, let's go out, and you say, I don't want to go out. And people said, no, no, trust me, you want to go out. And then you meet your spouse. You know, it wasn't in your best interest to get drunk, but you got married. So
That's what I mean. Sometimes you don't always know what's in your best interest, but you need to think and listen. Um, you know, when I got divorced, what was in my best interest was to make sure that I spent my energy in the place that I wanted to spend my energy. What was in my best interest? To fight my ex-wife for every penny, or to give her more than I needed to, but that freed me up to be able to do the things that I wanted to do, spend the time that I wanted to spend, and invest in my energy in the right way. You know, and that's an example of where it's almost counterintuitive. Is it in your best interest to give somebody more than they deserve? But actually, the bigger picture was yes. You know, that's a sort of an example.
I want to bounce off that when you say best use of time and stuff. Doing real estate is usually the life cycle of a deal is probably very long or could be long.
Mm.
Um, how do you utilize your time? Because you don't have to go in the morning and type accounting. You don't have to write content like we do. You don't. How do you optimize your time? How do you choose which meetings to go to? Traveling.
So there's always a mix. We've got a number of projects on. So again, one of my other mentors always told me very early, never be too busy chasing new to forget about what you've got. My role is what I call 90-degree vision. I have to keep one eye on what we have. I've got a team here, but I need to make sure and step in when I need to and design. And I particularly work on the design, the interiors and the design and stuff. That's one side of it. And the other side is on you. And for me, it's about meeting people and talking to people and being out. And it's a combination. I go out and I walk the streets once a month. I still go for a walk and go and drive and look at towns or walk around London. And, you come across buildings and you see buildings and you think that's quite interesting. So that's one side of it. And the other side is I spend my day sitting here. The kids, funny enough, if you ask them what I do, they used to say as a kid, Daddy has breakfast, lunch and dinner and coffees with everybody, and sometimes he talks a lot and does property deals. And that's what I do. My job is being out there, finding the opportunities. How do I do that? It's constantly talking to people, chatting with people, seeing what's around, seeing what's new, finding out what's left over, what hasn't sold, what's in the market, getting the latest stories. And that's really what I do. And that's how we find our deals. When I really want to go, when I have the appetite to go and buy something, I go hunting.
I hear you. And for me, as someone who writes a lot, whether it's the books and sometimes work for clients with specific stuff, I walk around a lot in the city, and I know a lot of parts in Tel Aviv that most people don't walk there, stuff like that. And I look at all the old buildings and I look at the nice apartments and everything. And I can walk for an hour and a half, 2 hours, get back home, write for maybe 15 minutes until you done. It's good. You walk around London and say, I'll buy this, which I think is a very interesting job to do in London.
Yeah.
Not many people know this, but I had the pleasure of spending a whole month in November of 21, sitting and writing in different coffee shops around London. And you were gracious enough to meet up with me a few times. And a couple of those times you called me and said, hey, what are you doing? Let's go. And you're a big football fan.
Big Arsenal fan, yes.
Big Arsenal fan. So first of all, thank you.
I am. It was a pleasure to have you. It was lovely to spend time. So I am third generation. My kids are fourth generation Arsenal fans. The story is that my grandfather and his brother came up from Brighton to live in London. My grandfather went to Arsenal. His brother went to Tottenham. My cousin is now an Everton fan, and my kids are fourth generation Arsenal fans. So that we often laugh. That's the difference. I will sort of say I'm very grateful that I was born on this side of the family. But for me, and again, the football it's more than just going to a game. It's about, I'm very fortunate. I've been able to go. I went with my late grandfather, who sadly passed away, actually at Arsenal 40 years ago now. I go with my dad. I've been with my dad. I go with my brother. I go with my sons. I go with my daughter. Although she's grown up in a football house, but has no interest in it, or a soccer house, as the Americans would call it. Yeah. But have no interest in it. But it's a passion and it's a love. It's also, it's a conversation starter. I had a meeting with somebody recently, and we were talking, and he said he was from Sunderland, and was able to, talking about that with him, and was able to talk. So it's a universal language. It's a universal sport.
It's a religion.
I played. Bill Shankly, who was the manager of Liverpool in the 60s and early 70s, said, it's not a question of life and death. It's more important than that. And when you look at for people, and especially around the country, and I've been very fortunate that I've been to many stadia around not just the UK, but around Europe. And it really is. It is. It is a religion. It is a die for. It is something that they say you can change your job, you can change career, you could change partner, you could change your gender. You'll never change your football club once you've been to a match, right? And it's quite amazing in that respect. And I started going when I was 5. And 50 years later, I'm really excited about going for the new season on the weekend.
There's a lot of similarities for me between religion, sports, and sometimes people have a passion about their business, right? Like, this is what you do. This is what you love doing. You love doing real estate. You didn't go to be a barrister at the end, a barrister.
No, but I love the law, and I spend a lot of time dealing with all of the contracts when we're buying or negotiating, and I get the law, and sometimes I will argue with our lawyers, and they hate it if I'm right, and my interpretation of things and stuff. So it's still something that I enjoy. Would I ever want to sort of give up what I do and go and become a barrister? Probably not now. But I love debating. And that started with something that when I was young and at school. And I really enjoy that and the debating and the discussion side of things. I love a good debate.
But do you fall under the category that if you do what you love, it will never feel like working?
100%. I don't work. People say I work hard. I don't work.
So young people that are listening to this, I'm going to take an
Yeah.
extract of this over 2 minutes, and people who don't like their job, quit, change, keep looking. What would you suggest? How would you look at it?
You're unlikely to marry the first person you kiss. By the same token, you're unlikely to spend your career doing the first thing that you try. Okay? But what you do every time you date somebody is you find out more about what you do like about somebody or a relationship or what you're good at or what your strengths are, and you learn about that. And my view on that is, I happen to be in real estate. I love what I do because I get to talk to people and chat, and I get to go out and see buildings, and I love that side of it. I don't enjoy the technical side of it. I don't enjoy the finance side of it. I don't enjoy the detail side of it. And I said, my job is largely go and find the deals, keep people inside the elastic band to make sure the job's done, but other people do the detail and the financing because they're much better at it than me. So my experience on that is, it's really about finding what you are good at as an individual. Today, for young people,
As a skill, not necessarily as a profession, as a passion.
unless you're going to do medicine, or even if you're going to do law or accountancy today, unless you're going to do medicine where you're going to stay in the medical field, okay? But today it's about working out what you are good at, what your skill set is, and trying different things, being prepared to learn and try different things. And remember, nobody's good at everything. Everybody's good at something. Okay? And it's working out what you're good at and what clicks. And the other thing is, and this is one of the great phrases I learned from EO with Inform, is use your tribe. Work with other people. Work out where your strengths can be complemented by other people. If you want to be an entrepreneur, focus on what you're good at and bring other people in that are better than you at what they do, because there's no I in team, but team stands for together, everyone achieves more.
It's a great bumper sticker. And if you love what you do as a profession, then I'll ask you, what are your hobbies except for soccer and EO?
So what do I love? What do I do? I love playing tennis, which I really enjoy. Do a lot of walking. Have a dog, and love going for walks and small hikes, not big hikes, but small hikes. Really enjoy that. And I read. I can't read enough. I love reading. I love reading autobiographies and historical novels, historical fiction.
You recommend an autobiography we should?
I've just read, and actually from an entrepreneur's perspective, it was fascinating. I've just read the autobiography on Barnum, The Greatest Showman.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And it was his autobiography, and which is set around the mid 18th century.
That's
mid 19th century. Mid 19th century.
Based in England.
In America.
He was in America.
Okay.
He was American. That's Barnum. That was the guy that did the shows.
He did the circus, and an unbelievable story.
Yeah.
And it's a real story. I love The Greatest Showman as a film, and I think from an entrepreneur's perspective, it's almost for me the iconic entrepreneur, however, even if he's 170 years old. It's 170 years ago, 150 years ago. Okay. Here was somebody who was an outsider. Here was somebody who was very driven. Here was somebody who needed perseverance. Here was somebody who needed to be resilient. Here was somebody who took risks. Okay. And the story about him and the challenges that he faced and his story is quite phenomenal. And I think is an unbelievable entrepreneurial story. People really don't appreciate it. The film is not The Greatest Showman. There's a lot of the autobiography in there, but that for me is a great. It's one that I'd recommend entrepreneurs to read.
I'll read it. You do audiobooks?
I can't do audiobooks.
Can I suggest something?
Sure.
I've done like 75 different books in the last couple of years, audiobooks. A lot about storytelling, management, stuff like that. Many of them research for my upcoming book and the next one.
Yeah.
And I divide, I use Audible in Amazon, and I divide into two parts. Every book I've done, audio, and then the Matthew McConaughey Green Lights. And he reads the book. So apparently he started journaling when he was 13. Okay. And at the age of 50, decided to do something that's not his autobiography or memoirs. It's what I've done so far. And he went to the desert and took all the journals and made a book. Unbelievable. And it's been on the top seller for the last 2 years, I think. And the way he reads it is so good. And I did the first time I heard the book while running. I would do 10K, which was about an hour's episode. So we'll just run. I wouldn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment it said the chapter ended, I would stop. So if you're willing to give it a try, I think it's epic.
I will give it a try. I will be open-minded to give it a try.
Yeah, I enjoyed it tremendously. So tell me, what's next for you? What are the plans for the next couple of years? You guys are scaling the business as recession is hitting. How are you adjusting? I know it's a big last question before we finish because I need to go, but I wanted to ask.
So we've done a lot of selling recently to build a war chest.
War chest, I like
which has been really key. We've given money back to our investors. Really important to do that. So that's been really worthwhile. And scale, yeah. I want to be ready to pounce. I don't want to pounce too early, but I'm ready to pounce when opportunity is going to come. I want to put us in a position to be able to do so. I'm always reticent to say two things. One, we had a very resilient COVID despite having retail and office because of the way that we handled and managed our occupiers, our banks, our team. That was one side of it. And the other side is that I'm sort of excited because I think there's going to be some real opportunities coming, and I don't want to be seen to be publicly capitalizing on people's distress, but we're going to capitalize on some opportunities, and I'm really excited about the opportunities that we're going to create.
Every crisis is an opportunity, they say.
Absolutely. Crisis in Chinese is challenge and opportunity.
I like this.
That's exactly where we're at.
James.
Exactly where we're at.
I had a hard stop 7 minutes ago, but I enjoyed this conversation so much that I will be late for a very important business dinner. I want to say a huge thank you for...
Thank you. Thank you for asking me today.
I hope you enjoyed.
I loved it. Loved it. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to everyone who's watched, listened, enjoyed these parts and pieces. I hope you're enjoying the Europreneur podcast. Go online to EO Europe, check out what EO is all about, what we do, and why these amazing people are all a part of this huge family. 2,000 people in Europe, almost 18,000 people around the world in 11 now, cities. Have fun, stay safe, and start looking for your next challenge opportunity. It'll be interesting out there. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.
Look forward to it. Thanks.